Unafraid Joe. Unafraid Joe College Football Week 4 live here on YouTube, Twitter, everything else. You guys make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about the show because this is a banger today because Week 4 in college football, this exposed a few teams. Teams were exposed, and we got to find out and talk about who those teams are because there was a lot of teams and a lot of fans who looked at this season and their team's early season success and was like, we made it. This is our year. I'm talking about like the Georgia Techs, the Missouris of the world, the USCs, the Kansas States, the Auburns. They're like, yeah, baby, this is our year. We are going to be a contending team. This is our year. Slow down. It doesn't mean you are a bad football team. It just means that you are not as great as probably you thought you were at that point in time. But it's early in the season. There is still so much to be excited about. And honestly, in this new normal season, we are going to see a bunch of upsets, and these conference races are going to be down to the wire. And now all of a sudden, just you got to be undefeated. That's out the window. You just have to win enough games and the correct games to get to your college football championship. And I'm going to give you my 5 best and the 5 worst teams of the weekend and talk about the games and then some of the news and notes around it and all of that. But this week we had the Oregon Ducks, Alabama Crimson Tide, Georgia Bulldogs. They all had the weekend off before getting in the conference play next week. But now we got to start the week off with the best and the worst teams from the weekend. And you guys make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend, get notifications. Take 1 second right now. Go share this with a friend. Go share it because this is the best college football content that you are going to find. And we are going to continue to make it great as the channel grows because we are over 19,000 subscribers now. And it is thanks to you guys. And I appreciate it so much. And this is what, in a year's time? Come on, man. We cooking with Crisco around here. All right, so the best and the worst performances of this weekend. So the best performances of the weekend, one of them was by the Michigan Wolverines. The Michigan Wolverines were part of the best of the weekend. And the reason why that they were part of the best of the weekend is because they won. At the end of the day, winning matters. And USC took a much improved football team up there. Their defense is significantly better. They took a high-powered offense. And Michigan right now, they've got no quarterback. They have a major quarterback issue. They went with Alex Orji in the game. And that, my friends, was not pretty. It was not. And we're going to detail more about that game in a minute. But Michigan is part of the 5 best teams. The next best team that we have to talk about are the Clemson Tigers. They got to win. And this is a Clemson team that absolutely dominated this weekend. And they deserve all of the credit that they're getting at this point in time. Because when you win and you win big, even if the competition is not always the way that we want it or they show up the way that you think that they're going to show up, that don't matter. They put 59-35 on NC State, and a lot of that was in garbage time. And remember, Tennessee beat them, I think, 51-10. So that's something that we can compare and contrast. So at least we know, okay, cool. You knocked the doors off of NC State, which is what should be done because they are probably the most disappointing team this season in college football. Between them and Florida State, we got to, it's like the 2 Spider-Mans pointing at each other like, no, you, no, I'll be worse. No, I'll be worse. Yeah, that's what we got right now. So they are a part of it. So those are the first 2 teams. We got Michigan and Clemson. We got Utah. And you might be wondering, Georgia, 22-19 win over Oklahoma State. How is that worthy of the best teams of the weekend? Well, when you do that with your backup quarterback, Isaac Wilson, a true freshman, instead of Cam Rising, this is something to take note of. Now, I told you guys last week and the week before when Cam Rising was out, when he first got hurt, that we were not sure if he was going to play this week. And people were saying, oh my God, George, what are you talking about? All the leaks say that he's going to play. Utah is a bunch of liars when it comes to injuries. Good people over there with Kyle Whittingham. But we cannot in any way, shape, form, or fashion believe anything that they are going to say about their quarterback, Cam Rising. Last year, they had us believe that Cam Rising was going to play at some point in time in the beginning of the season, and he didn't play the entire year. So, yes. So, will he be back next week? Who knows? Who knows? We will see when they trot him out there or don't trot him out there before the game. All right, next team up. Tennessee. Tennessee went to Oklahoma. They went to Norman, Oklahoma, and took care of business. Now, we do still have, I believe that this game presented more questions about Tennessee than we originally thought that we had, but this is still an upper echelon football team. And I'm actually not as excited about Tennessee for this year, but Tennessee next year and the year after that with Nico Iamalava as quarterback, boy, listen, could be spelling national championship with them T. Martin days and Philip Fulmer. All right, Illinois. Illinois is another team that had a great weekend. Brett Bielema is doing a great job over there. He's found a way with his quarterback, Luke Altmaier. Like, he's got a quarterback now. And that was kind of the issue with Illinois last year. They were all defense, not enough offense. And now they're looking like a complete football team. And wait till you see where I have them ranked in the Big Ten. Because this is a good team, buddy. This is a really good team. And they are a team that can't win the Big Ten championship, but they are a team that can prevent your team from winning a Big Ten championship, if you get my drift. Now, before we get into the worst teams of the weekend, I want to talk about just teams in general, because this is something that fans, it seems like, and I keep getting these on my Twitter, and you guys make sure that you guys leave comments on and at George Wrighster, at Unafraid Show, or send an email. I'm Matt, IMMAD at unafraidshow.com, so we can put your questions in the mailbag for this week. People aren't understanding how Florida State is bad. They're not understanding how NC State is bad. They're not understanding how teams who got notable transfers are underperforming at this point in time. So there is a big difference between team building and building a roster. Team building and building a roster. Because when you build a team, that involves your culture, that involves everything that it takes to make your team really good, and the things, and sticking to your principles. Because when you bring players in, they come from other systems, they come from all of that. And when it's only 1 year transfers, that makes it even tougher. So when you see teams like Florida State, watch. They just won. They beat Cal this weekend. Watch Florida State get some momentum and be a much better team at the beginning of the year, because they have a culture that Mike Norvell is building, and they have to institute that with the new transfers. And sometimes it takes a longer time to build, and with no preseason like you have in the NFL, it's tougher. But I do want to give congrats on a big win for Florida State, because I think that when you criticize people loudly, that you should turn around and acknowledge them just as loudly. And this is a team that has been much maligned. People have been talking trash about DJ Uiagalelei. They've been talking about uh, Mike Norvell. Should Mike Norvell be fired? Any of that. You can bring any of that up. But you know what? This team right now has shown they are a really good, well, they played really good ball this weekend versus Cal, which is a tough team. And when they got in a pinch, what did they do? They found a way to win. They didn't find a way to choke the game off. They found a way to win. They got stops on defense when they needed. Now, the offense wasn't exactly crispy cream and crispy clear like you wanted it to be, but this was a really good performance by Florida State to just get a little bit of momentum. So I'm going to be one of the first ones to give them some credit, because a lot of people are going to ignore it. And that's not how we roll here on the Unafraid Show. If we criticize you or we point out your shortcomings and your faults, when you fix them and you do a better job, you know what? We are going to give you credit. So big ups to Florida State for getting a win there because they needed it badly. The next thing I want to talk about before we get to the worst teams of the week, the Heisman Trophy. Right now, there's a lot of people that have Cam Ward at the top of their Heisman list. They have Jackson Dart at the top of their Heisman list. And truthfully, neither one of those two teams has played anybody. Yes, Miami played Florida, but that's literally it. And South Florida. South Florida can't throw the ball. They have a good team outside of quarterback. That's where they struggle at. So Cam Ward is doing a really good job. They showing off. They pointing to people. They showing you where they gonna run the ball. Miami is feeling themselves. They got their swagger up on 100,000 trillion. But we got to see what happens when they run up against somebody that got something. And that's where we're going to see who Miami is. Because it's easy when you are more talented, you're running guys over, your guys are bigger, faster, stronger. The quarterback can't throw the ball against you. It's easier to win then. Your confidence is going to be high. And then Jackson Dart, if you can name five, forget it. Forget five. I challenge you to name 3 players from the teams that Ole Miss has played. 3. If you can name 3 players from all the teams, then sir, you deserve all the more, ma'am, you deserve all the credit in the world. Because so far, Ole Miss has played Furman. They have played Middle Tennessee State. They've played Georgia Southern, and they've played Wake Forest. So if you can name 3 players, as a matter of fact, outside of Wake Forest, and even if you include Wake Forest, if there are 6 NFL players on those rosters right now, name them, please. And so that's why I am not putting Jackson Dart on my Heisman ballot in yet. But those stats will matter, which he's putting up crazy numbers. But this feels like a Jaden Daniels last year, except for the fact that his defense was so bad that no matter who they played, he was having to score a lot of points. And right now, Jackson Dart's just piling up stats against teams that don't really matter right now. But at the top of the Heisman ballot right now is Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter has to be, at this point in time, the person that is going to be holding the Heisman Trophy at the end of the year. Because what we're seeing out of this young man is unreal. He hasn't even missed 30 snaps in their first 4 games. On offense or defense combined, 30. Hadn't he missed 30? Are you kidding me? And he's playing at a high level at wide receiver. And in fact, he is the best and most important person on this Colorado team. And people are like, well, they're not a national championship contender. What does it matter? Well, they're 3-1 right now, and they would be 0-4 if it were not for Travis Hunter. The dude is over 100 yards a game receiving. He's D'ing up. In their most recent game against Baylor, in overtime, he was the one who made the hit to fumble the ball out of the back of the end zone for Colorado's win. He's doing everything for this team. And think about the last time, and if you guys want to make the Heisman Trophy just a quarterback award, okay, cool. Like, that's fine, and I'll stop this conversation right now. But if we're going to make it about the best player in college football, how is it not Travis Hunter? I don't care if they lose every rest of the game. If he keeps playing like this, what else do you want the man to do? Because the last time a defensive player won the Heisman Trophy, it was Charles Woodson. What was he doing? Playing defense and returning punts. He didn't give you nearly the production offensively that Travis Hunter is giving you. So Travis Hunter is giving you the lockdown D that Charles Woodson was, plus the offensive production that we got out of the last wide receiver Heisman Trophy, Devonta Smith from Alabama. So he's giving you the offense of the Heisman Trophy winner, Devonta Smith, and the defensive play out of Charles Woodson combined. How do we not look at that and say that that's the Heisman Trophy winner? Make it make sense. And Shedeur Sanders would not be able to be nearly as successful as he is right now without Travis Hunter. Find me a player on a team that is more valuable to their team than Travis Hunter. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, D lineman, anybody. He's their second most important offensive player because the quarterback is pretty much always more on the offense than Shedeur Sanders. He's the most important player on defense. And he might be the best wide receiver in the country and one of the best DBs in the country. So we have to. If y'all want to make it a quarterback award or say it's only for national championship caliber teams, okay, cool. But you bucked that last year with Jaden Daniels. And I think that this has to be the year that we get the Heisman back to being special in terms of the best player in college football and not just one of the best players in college football on the best team or the best quarterback on a great team. We got to stop that. But now it is time for the worst performances from this week in college football. So we had NC State. I'm sorry, excuse me. Well, NC State definitely could have been on this list, but we know that they're not a good football team right now, so it is what it is. It is North Carolina. Lord have mercy. I wasn't even the way I watch college football on the weekends. I have my 4-box set up. I have my laptop, and I have my iPad. So I got 6 total screens that I'm watching. None of them were on North Carolina, James Madison. And then I look at the ticker tape floating around the bottom. I'm like, this is weird. How does James Madison have so many points already? And then right before halftime, I turned it on. And then they scored 2 more quick touchdowns. I think they had 53 points at halftime. My mind was blown. How do you give up 50 plus points if you're North Carolina or anybody at halftime? I mean, I can understand if the Citadel was playing Alabama a couple years ago. But this is North Carolina. How does this happen? And then I watched part of the game and I was like, oh, North Carolina's defense is atrocious. Atrocious. And then their offense continued to give the ball away. So it's going to be very hard for them to win games. So this was a 3-0 team. They beat Minnesota first week of the season. Mind you, Minnesota's offense is not special, but it was week 1 anyway. Then they turned around and beat Charlotte. They beat North Carolina Central. And then you get 70 hung on you. That's the most points ever scored by James Madison and the most points ever given up by North Carolina. So, yes, you are at the top of the worst performances of the week list. Number 2 on the list is USC. USC, they went to the big house. They got punched in the mouth. But their defensive coordinator, Deion Sanders, he belongs on the best of the list of the weekend. And we'll get to that game in just a few minutes. But USC losing that game when they had an opportunity, that just stinks. Kansas State, they're on this list. 38-9 loss to BYU. Turnovers. And then they couldn't score. And remember, I told you guys that we have to watch a lot of these quarterback situations because we got to watch Syracuse and Ohio State because they sent their quarterback away from last year. He lands at Syracuse, and now he's playing pretty well over there. And people are wondering, okay, is he? And their coach has said that that Kyle McCord is a really good quarterback. And so far this year, Kyle McCord thrown for over 1,000 yards, 67% completions, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And he is going to be judged, and his performances are going to be judged against Will Howard's at Ohio State, because Ohio State hasn't played anybody yet, but now that they get into conference play, we're going to see what Will Howard is made out of. And they had a little bit of trouble versus Marshall a little bit, but, you know, we'll see. And then you're going to have Will Howard at Ohio State judged against Kansas State, because Kansas State essentially pushed Will Howard out the way their young freshman Avery Johnson, even though he's a redshirt freshman this year, the way he could play. So that's something that you're going to have to watch. Same thing going on over at Oklahoma with Jackson Arnold and Dylan Gabriel, who's at Oregon now. So there's going to be a lot of comparisons between the quarterbacks that left one place, went another, and how the replacement is doing. So Kansas State, they were like, people were thinking that they were going to be a Big 12 favorite, but I told people, even though that they were on the best of last week, told everybody that win against Arizona was a little bit, that 31-7 win, little bit deceiving, because Kansas State's offense did not look great in that game, but their defense played really well. So that's why against BYU, I was surprised that they lost by so much. But that's the problem. When you turn over the football and you're having offensive struggles, it is going to be a significant problem. Now, the fourth team up this weekend on the worst performances was Auburn. Oh, Lord, Hugh Freeze. So he made it worse in the press conference when he doubled down. So they lost to Arkansas 24-14. And this Arkansas team, was the team that Sam Pittman, people were thinking that Sam Pittman wasn't going to make it through the season. And now Arkansas is sitting at what, 3-1? And Arkansas sitting at 3-1 is very surprising. Very surprising. Yeah, they're sitting at 3-1 right now. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff, they beat Oklahoma State, UAB, and now they've beaten Auburn. So Sam Pittman, all of that. So his seat has gone from an ejecto seat down to just it's still a little simmery. A little simmery. Because they have a significant, much harder stretch of games coming up, because they got Texas A&M this weekend, and Texas A&M is ranked. I do not understand how Texas A&M is ranked based upon what they've done so far, because after they lost that Notre Dame game, the only thing that they've done is they beat McNeese State, they beat Florida, who's bad, and then they beat Bowling Green. That's what they've done. And the Bowling Green, a 26-20 win over Bowling Green, bumps you up to getting ranked. I shall claim SEC bias, but everybody will be upset. But we know that that's the truth. And then the last team in the 5 worst performances this weekend is Northern Illinois. I feel like Tyra Banks on America's Next Top Model. I was rooting for you. They came out, they beat Notre Dame. They were in the catbird seat to get into the college football playoff as the highest ranked G5 team. And then they let all that good work go to hell with that Notre Dame win and lose to Buffalo 23-20 in overtime. Their college football playoff hopes are done at this point in time, unless everybody else struggles. They are, yeah. It's unfortunate, but this is the world that we live in. So those are the 4 worst teams. And you guys can leave your comments. I'll see them. I see them in the chat as well. And so, yes, Zora said, yes, it is much relaxing for Oregon Ducks fans to not have to play this weekend. So with Alabama, and the same thing with Georgia as well. But listen, it's going to get tougher. Now I want to talk about defense, because you have Steve Sarkisian, who is known for being an offensive mastermind. You have Josh Heupel over at Tennessee, known for being an offensive mastermind. So you got Steve Sarkisian, offensive mastermind. Josh Heupel, offensive mastermind. Lincoln Riley, offensive mastermind. But why have these offensive guys suddenly turned defensive? Because Tennessee's defense looks for real this year. They look good. They look tough. They look physical. Granted, they've not played against any great offenses yet, but just average defenses give up points to bad offenses all the time. Steve Sarkisian over at Texas, known for developing quarterbacks. That's how he got Arch Manning. He's known for putting up points, but now he's got a defense. Last 2 years, got a defense. Lincoln Riley, same thing. Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma and then at USC, his first 2 years, no defense to be found. Ain't no D in Lincoln Riley. Ain't no D in USC. But he made a genius move this year and hired away D'Anton Lynn from UCLA. That's what he did. That was a fantastic decision because he knows that the difference between him winning a national championship or him even being competitive in the Big Ten is putting a good defense together. And there was a lot of people who were overvaluing this USC defense coming into, well, after that LSU win and then their win over Utah State. They're like, oh man, this is one of the better defenses in the country. Slow down. You don't go from like number 121 and one of the worst defenses, no matter how great your coaching is, to being a top 5 or top 10 defense. You don't. Can you make it to like 25, 30? Absolutely. And that's about where USC is. They are a top third defense in the country, and they're coached really well. So, because these coaches have realized, oh, so our offense and just playing serviceable defense, that's no longer the way to win. That's not a solution because Lincoln Riley got dominated in the college football playoffs against Alabama and Clemson and whoever else they played because they couldn't get stops. And then second half, his offenses started to get going, but they were down by so much it was too late. So this is something to watch where you have these offensive masterminds and coaches trying to figure it out on defense. And part of it is not just their personnel, part of it is how they practice. It is their blocking in practice, it is the physicality that they allow. Because there was last year, Lincoln Riley wouldn't let his wide receivers get touched in practice, nothing. We've seen Deion Sanders talking about don't touch the wide receivers. Listen, there has to be a level of physicality allowed. And that's how you end up playing good defense. Now on to the games. The first game that we're going to talk about, USC versus Michigan. First game, USC versus Michigan. 27-24. Michigan closed it out in the Big House. This was a huge win. A huge win. Because on one hand, yes, like it was absolutely shocking that this game was this close after the first half because Michigan was running the ball down USC's throat. They were doing that Marshawn Lynch, running through a mofo's face over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then, is there a metaphor to that? Run through a mofo's face. He ain't going to be able to take it. And that's what it looked like was going to happen to USC. But D'Anton Lynn, he looked at this game and he was like, okay, we got to switch up how we're playing this on defense. And they went to a system of they double dog dared Michigan to throw the football. And that 32 straight runs that Michigan did against Penn State, they were attempting to do that versus USC. I think at one point they ran 11 or 13 straight running plays. And then D'Anton Lynn was like, oh, no. That's what we're not going to do. All these quarterback sweeps and all. No, we are putting an end to that. And then Michigan, who had firm control of this game, got just absolute stoned running the football. And D'Anton Lynn, genius. And it's too bad for Lincoln Riley that this is the only season that he's going to get him as defensive coordinator. Because I'm going to tell you this, If he is not a head coach next season, we riot. There's no way that you can have a coach doing this great of a job. He did it at UCLA. Now he's doing it at USC. Two ragtag defenses that he made top fantastic compared to where they were. He's shown leadership. His dad, Anthony Lynn, former head coach of the Chargers. He was, I think, our running back coach when I was in Jacksonville for a sec. So what we not gonna do is sit up here and act like this dude better not be a head coach next year. I'm just putting everybody on notice. It's gonna be a problem if not. So, and now he's made this team tough and physical. They're a tier 2 defense in college football, up from a tier 5 defense. But how in the world Michigan won this game is incredible. They got the ball in their own 10-yard line with about 3 minutes left. They went 10 plays, 90 yards, and completed 0 passes. 0. USC got to be ashamed of themselves. But also at the same time, that's the difference from being a top tier defense and being a defense that is significantly better. That's the difference. You can only do it for so long. When you are pretending to, when you are getting in the habit of doing something, like if you're trying to, lose weight, you're trying to get in shape, you're trying to do all of this stuff. Some of the hard days, some of the days that you don't feel like it, those are the days that you got to fight through. And this is USC's defense. They're trying to fight through to build better habits. And they backslid in there. And that's going to happen when you don't have a top tier defense. But I'm going to tell you, this Michigan offense almost made my eyes bleed. They almost set football back 50 years. Like the forward pass. The Orgy, their quarterback, went 7 for 12 for 32 yards. They ran the ball 46 times for 290 yards. Are you going to be pleased with that? Hell yeah. But there aren't very many games that you're going to be able to win throwing for 32 yards. And their offensive coordinator and Sharon Moore, they showed that they have zero confidence, in Alex Orgy throwing the football. So Michigan has to figure something out. And I know that on its face, that people are like, well, they're 3-1. They can keep winning like this. Yeah, are they going to be able to beat Minnesota like this on Saturday? Yes, they're going to beat the hell out of Minnesota just like this. Are they going to be able to beat Washington like this? Probably not. They're going to have to throw the ball on some level. Illinois, there's no way they beat Illinois playing the same way that they did against USC. It ain't going to happen. They're going to beat Michigan State like that. They're not going to beat Oregon like that. And they damn sure ain't going to beat Ohio State like that. So this is a team that could be staring at 3-4 losses if they can't figure out how to pass the ball. And at some point in time, the recruiting that's going on at Michigan is going to take a hit. Going to. Are you going to get a 5-star or big-time quarterback willing to sign this upcoming year? Yes, 100%, because he's going to be like, opportunity immediately. Are you going to have a chance at a transfer? Yes. But you're going to have a bunch of people that are going to turn that down as well. Because you had J.J. McCarthy, who ended up being a top 10 pick, because quarterbacks want to throw the football. And there was a time in the Penn State game, 32 straight runs, no passes in the second half. Quarterbacks don't sign up for that. There were times where he didn't even get an opportunity to be special. And turns out J.J. McCarthy might be all right. So that's and if you're a wide receiver, how are you looking at the recruiting rankings and being like, oh yeah, Michigan is the place that I should go and get developed as a wide receiver? Because you're not going to catch any balls. And remember, wide receiver is the one position that you're a diva at. We had Stephon Diggs in the NFL leading one of the top 3 in the league in targets, yards, and touchdowns. And he's like, I don't like the way I'm being used. That's the way wide receivers are. In my entire NFL, college, high school career, I have never in my life seen a wide receiver who was at the end of the game happy or the end of a season happy with the amount of targets, catches, and touchdowns. Never. They're all that you could have 20 catches for 306 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the wide receiver, when he gets around his family and close friends, oh man, I could have had 20, 25 for 400 today. They missed me on a couple. That's what they're always gonna say. So Michigan better get it together and get on the good foot, because if they don't show some passing production, it's gonna be hard, and you're gonna see them regress to not being an upper tier team until they figure out this offense in terms of how to throw the football. All right, next game up, Tennessee at Oklahoma. This was a 25-15 win. I was surprised that Tennessee did not score more points with the way that they were able to shut down Oklahoma, because they put Oklahoma's offense in a chokehold. And on its face, you would look and be like, man, this Oklahoma I mean, this Tennessee defense is for real. And I do believe that they are for real. But this Oklahoma offense has a problem. And I actually left with more questions about Tennessee than I did coming into the game, because Tennessee's defense is good. And let's talk about what they did to Oklahoma. Is they got Jackson Arnold out of the game. That was the kid that they pushed Dylan Gabriel out the door to Oregon for, because they were like, we got this Jackson Arnold kid and he's the one. That's what the fans believed. So Jackson Arnold, as the Sooners quarterback this season, 53-3 win over Temple. They beat Houston 16-12, and their head coach Brent Venables said they should have lost that game. And then they beat Tulane 34-19. And both Houston and Tulane had a chance to take leads on them in the fourth quarter. That's a problem offensively when you're not scoring very many points. And then in this Tennessee game, Jackson Arnold had multiple fumbles. Yeah, 2 lost fumbles. He had a pick and then a near pick as well. So this was not a good performance. But then they brought in Michael Hawkins Jr., kid who's a freshman. And I'm actually excited to see what the future holds, because he has, what, 2 games? Well, 1 game and a bye week before the Red River rivalry against Texas on October 12th. That game against Auburn next weekend is at Auburn. And if that kid can play, because I don't think that Brent Venables can start Jackson Arnold after these last 3 games, and then Michael Hawkins coming in and playing pretty well. I don't think he can start him. So I would be surprised. But the question about Tennessee, though, is this offense has not looked as explosive as the scores have dictated. Now, Nico in this game did protect the football, did not throw a pick. And this is a kid I believe is going to be like a Tennessee legend at quarterback. But right now, he's at multiple games under 200 yards, which is a fine. He's adding on the ground a little bit. But this Tennessee offense got stifled some by this Oklahoma defense. So this is a Tennessee team that is a year away, if they can continue to put up good defense, away from being a national championship contender. But we're going to see, not this weekend because they have a bye this week, but then they get Arkansas and then Florida before they get that third week of October game against Alabama. So we're going to see. And remember, I told you, because Tennessee plays Alabama and they play Georgia, they're going to win one of those 2 games. The other one, they are going to get waxed. One of those 2 games, they are going to win. So their fans are going to be excited. They're going to miss the playoffs by just a little bit, or they're going to be one of the last teams in. But I am definitely all types of excited about this Tennessee team. They're good. But this Oklahoma team, this is a bad sign, buddy. This is a bad sign. Unless The Michael Hawkins kid turns out to be as good as advertised. All right. Another game we got to talk about, and this one was on Friday. Illinois versus Nebraska, 31-24. Illinois won this game. And Dylan Raiola, quarterback for Nebraska, I was impressed. 24 for 35, 297, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. He did miss that big throw at the end of the game to the tight end, which would have sealed it. And then Illinois ended up winning. But overall, this dude who I thought was overrated as the number one quarterback prospect last year, he looked poised, he looked confident, and he looked settled. So Matt Rule is doing a really good job. And now this Nebraska team, which came into the game ranked number 22nd, they look like a team that is going to make a bowl game this year, that they're going to break their 7 year straight losing record. This is what I'm excited about this Nebraska team. I think Matt Rule is doing a fabulous job, and he's putting his team in a position to win football games. He is. So, and Dylan Raiola, as soon as he figures out who he is, because right now he's trying to be a carbon copy of Patrick Mahomes. But next year, the year after, once you go from being like an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid to, grown manning, and you understand who you are, that's the difference. That's when he's really going to take off because he got a chance to be special. But this Illinois team, they are good. They are solid. I like their corners. They play hard. They play tough. This is a physical defense. And Brett Bielema, who I criticized his first year there when he was like, oh, my team's bad. It's them guys, them guys. And I was like, why don't you point the finger at yourself? He must have pointed the finger at himself because he's getting it fixed. Good job, Brett. And Luke Altmaier, like it. Love what you're doing. 21 for 27, 215. And this is a team. Remember, I told you, this is not a team that can win the Big Ten, but this is the team that can make sure Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, Nebraska, Michigan, USC, that they don't win the Big Ten. But that leads to my Big Ten rankings right now, because I do think that there are going to be 4 Big Ten teams that make the college football playoff. And right now I got Oregon, Ohio. This in no order, so people know. Oh, you got Ohio. Listen, you guys, the Unafraid Show rankings come out tomorrow, so you guys will get a chance to see them. But you'll get a decent idea of where we're at right now. We got Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and then that fourth team that makes the college football playoff. You got a combination of Illinois, Nebraska, Michigan, and USC. Iowa and all them, they don't have a shot. Wisconsin don't have a shot. Now, USC's schedule shakes up very favorably. They play Penn State at home in the Coliseum. So if they can win that game, they're going to have a chance to move up those rankings. But I got the 4th team right now as Illinois in making the college football playoff. Just had a big win over Nebraska, and I do believe that they can keep pace. And if they can finish the season with 2 losses, they're going to be in really good shape. And now my SEC teams. My SEC teams that I think have a legitimate shot to make the playoff: Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Bama, and Ole Miss. That's what you got. Now, Texas, Georgia, 1-2 right now. Texas is number 1. I got them number 1 in the country, so that's not a surprise when the rankings come out tomorrow. And the reason why I have Ole Miss 5th is because the same thing I told you earlier. We have not seen them get a chance to play against anybody good right now. So, sorry, Ole Miss. The Big 12. I really only think that there's only going to be one Big 12 team to get in, and it's going to be Utah. Can UCF or BYU make it tough on them? Yeah, but when it comes to the conference championship, Utah will be there, and then they will show up and they will win the conference championship, and they will be the 4 seed in the playoffs. This is what it is. In the ACC, you really only got. I know people were trying. Oh, George Syracuse this year. It's Louisville. I mean, it's Georgia Tech this year. And I stand firm on what I said. Both of those teams are just like Illinois. Those are teams that can't win the ACC, but they can make sure your team don't win the ACC. And you got Miami and Louisville who are going to be fighting for spots out of the ACC at this point in time. Now Miami, when them and Louisville meet, we will see who has the leg up before they probably play again in the ACC championship. And then, depending on if they swap wins, that's how you may actually get 2 ACC teams in the college football playoff. And then, when it comes to the group of 5, we got Boise State and we got Navy. Those are the 2 teams that have a legitimate shot to make the college football playoff at this point in time. Now, of course, there's Memphis, and but they just lost this weekend to Navy, and Navy was putting up points. And wouldn't that be a good story, though? Wouldn't it be a dope story for Navy to make the college football playoff? Hmm, I'm just saying, because they might actually wreck somebody's season. Um, oh, Lord have mercy. I totally forgot. And before we end the show, I would be remiss if I did not talk about Colorado. What are we doing, fam? Your fans rushed the field after a win over Baylor? Now, on one hand, Colorado has been terrible for quite some time. So any win is a big win. They were wearing the throwback uniforms. It was an exciting game. It was a hell of a comeback. They were down 14 points in the fourth quarter. Hell of a comeback. But storming the field when you beat Baylor, that don't feel, it's not even your rival. It was funny to me. Now, that shows that Colorado fans have been deprived, because they are a great fan base in college football. Because remember, Colorado used to be really good when I was in college. And then prior to that, with Cordell Stewart, with Rashawn Salam, Heisman Trophy winner. This is a storied program, and they're people, like, it's in their DNA in the city of Boulder. But you guys, you're above this. You are above storming the field in a game against Baylor. I'm just saying. But this thing, but Travis Hunter, again, I must say, you are the Heisman Trophy winner this year. And big ups to Deion in Colorado. They're 3-1 right now. There's a lot of people who don't believe in this team. But I'm gonna tell you, at 3-1 right now, they got UCF, then they got Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech. They got Kansas, Utah, Oklahoma State. There's 3 wins in there. Last year, I picked them to win in between 4 and 5 games. Right on the money. This year, I got them 6 to 7 wins. Huh. And you know what that means? All of this talk about Deion Sanders not coming back next year. I do believe Deion Sanders is going to come back next year for sure. It's the year after that you got to be concerned about, because their athletic director, Rick George, is going to be stepping down after next season. So now we got to find out, okay, is the new regime going to be in? Is Deion going to go recruit high school? So next year is going to be when we figure out if Deion is in this for the long haul and what his coaching looks like. Just saying. But you guys, though, this is the Unafraid Show, college football show, the wrap-up show on Sunday. You guys, make sure that you guys share the show. Make sure that you tell a friend about the show. Make sure that you get notifications about the show. And go on YouTube specifically and download it, people. Download it. Well, sorry. Watch it on YouTube. Give it a like, a thumbs up, and leave a comment on YouTube. Peace out. Catch you guys. We got great content coming out tomorrow. live on Tuesday and Thursday in between 1 and 1:30. So do not miss that. Peace out.